Purple Thriller is a bit of a passion project for me. For those of you who don't know, I don't just make YouTube videos. I actually also write fan fiction on Wattpad.com under the name Rinzler Hero. I've been writing stories for well over 3 years now, and up until now have never written a fan fiction about real people. I've stuck close to cartoons, video games, anime, and movie characters, but Purple Thriller is an interpretation of an alternate 2009 where Michael Jackson doesn't die. That's right, you heard me. Let me elaborate. In 2009, the real 50-year-old Michael Jackson was in a very bad way. He was secretly suffering from lupus for decades, which caused his joints to ache, his eyelashes and eyebrows to fall off, his hairline to recede, and burns to begin forming on his cheeks, which meant that he was in constant pain. However, he was also in serious financial debt from the molestation trials of the early 2000s and from abandoning Neverland and leaving the staff unpaid to keep things running in his absence. This may seem like a dick move, but consider the fact that MJ was in a lot of physical and emotional pain and really just needed a break from America and all of its drama. Now, since of course we're going by the logic that MJ was an innocent man, which I truly do believe, that means he was now in a position where everything he did hurt him physically, and yet much of the world turned on him for something that he didn't do. And that was also very emotionally taxing on him. But he needed the money, so in 2009 he announced his comeback tour, which would take place between July of 2009 and March of 2010, over the course of a record 50 shows in London. Michael became addicted to pain medication and also followed other unhealthy habits from throughout his career, including fasting, which meant he didn't eat anything and he didn't drink anything either, and he also barely slept. It got so bad that his doctor, Conrad Murray, had to start administering IVs to help MJ sleep, meaning that MJ didn't sleep under his own power for about 2 months straight. Something bad was bound to happen, and it did. Just 2 weeks before his first This Is It show, Murray accidentally gave Michael too much medicine and he never woke up again. The concerts were quickly canceled, his This Is It documentary became a tribute, and Conrad Murray spent over half a year in court and would then spend another 2 years in prison. The blow of Michael Jackson's death could be felt everywhere, including in his rival, Prince. Prince and Michael had a complicated relationship to say the least. Prince always felt bitter about an incident that occurred between them in 1983 at a James Brown concert. Michael had just performed a dance routine that he'd been practicing before inviting Prince to show off his own moves. Prince, unprepared but wanting to deliver for James Brown, who is his idol, instead humiliated himself by awkwardly falling off the stage after hanging onto a light post that he was unaware was a prop. It was a public humiliation for Prince, and one that Prince almost certainly blamed Michael for. He felt that MJ set him up to fail in front of his idol. In the immediate years following, Michael attempted a dream collaboration with Prince for the song Bad, which was supposed to be a duet between two criminals arguing with one another, but despite Prince assuring him that he'd be there, he was a no-show, and thus the song had to be reworked as a solo. This would become a running theme in their careers, with Prince regularly dodging any chances of collaborating with Michael. MJ even referred to Prince as a meanie. Yeah, he actually called him that, a meanie. Like a small child would call a bully, a meanie. Which is why it might be surprising to you that Prince reacted to Michael's death in a very uncharacteristic manner. It was reported by the author Tavis Smiley, who was making a book about Michael's insane pain medication addiction, that when visiting Prince in the immediate aftermath of Michael's death, that he had sent his band home and locked himself in a room for days. This was definitely not the reaction that someone who supposedly hated Michael Jackson would do. So then the old fanfiction gears began to turn in my head, and I decided that these two would make a good fanfiction pairing. And out came Purple Thriller, probably the most difficult and arduous fanfiction I've ever written. I really did put my heart and soul into researching everything there was to know about these two to make a truly genuine and realistic but still very heartfelt fan fiction. So today, I'm going to be summarizing Purple Thriller's 6 chapters and talk about why I think you should read it. So the story begins in June 2009, 2 days before Michael Jackson died in real life. He's just rehearsed Beat It for his tour when Prince arrives backstage. Prince has heard rumors that this tour will be Michael's last ever tour, and he wants to try and make amends for his past actions. Prince has turned over a new leaf in recent times and wants Michael to know that he doesn't hate him anymore. He acknowledges the fact that he used to be very bitter and just not a very nice person during his prime years. Michael is surprised to see Prince, but he welcomes him with open arms and even invites him to dinner at his house. Prince meets Michael's three children, Little Prince, Paris, and Michael Jr., and witnesses Michael's parental side as a result, which begins to soften his opinion of Michael. However, during dinner, Michael and Prince do start arguing about the past, but Michael passes out into his food. Anger quickly turns to concern as Prince is able to rouse Michael and call for an ambulance. Michael is put onto an IV drip to counteract his dehydration and starvation. Prince comforts Michael's children in the meantime, but becomes emotional after remembering the death of his own son Amir in 1996. Michael and Prince apologize to one another about the past, and Prince convinces Michael to prioritize his health over his concerts by pointing out that people would rather see them later than not at all. Michael caves but requests that Prince remain in California, and Prince agrees. During the conversation, Michael is finally able to sleep under his own power for the first time in months. Prince stays at the Jackson residence per Michael's request and even looks after his three children while he's in the hospital. Michael and Prince end up actually forming a very tight friendship with one another, and Prince even sits by Michael's bedside at the hospital for very long periods of time. The pair become very trusting in one another and even tell each other personal secrets, such as Prince telling Michael about how Amir died, a story that he's been trying to keep out of the tabloids because he's in so much pain when he tries to tell this story. Basically, Amir had been born with a condition called Pfeiffer type 2, and being unable to save his life, he died only a week after he was born. And Prince has just been suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder ever since, which has prevented him from becoming a father again. Michael meanwhile shows Prince his true face and discusses the constant pain that he lives in both emotionally and physically. These revelations make the pair inseparable, and both find themselves developing feelings for the other. However, neither of them confesses. Michael's feelings for Prince only grow stronger, however, after he surprises him with KFC for lunch, rescues him from the paparazzi on his motorcycle, and becomes an incredible second father to Michael's kids, in particular his namesake, Little Prince, to whom he uses puppetry to get him to eat his vegetables, and even sings Starfish and Coffee to him as a lullaby. Prince also feels the same way for Michael, but he is in denial due to his beliefs as a Jehovah's Witness. Prince is so conflicted that he actually cries when Michael isn't around. One day, Michael overhears Prince crying and invites him to calm his nerves in the upstairs hot tub. While there, Michael begins sadly talking about Prince leaving. Prince has stayed there far longer than anybody thought he would, so Michael, he expects him to leave because he's fully recovered and he doesn't technically need Prince anymore. However, Prince is quick to shoot down any notions of leaving. And Michael is of course very pleased by that because Michael doesn't really want Prince to leave. And regardless of his denial, Prince recognizes how much better his life has become since moving in with the Jacksons, and he doesn't want to go back to living alone at Paisley Park, where he has a lot of bad memories of his ex-wives. So after much inner conflict, Prince decides that he's just too fucking old to let the media and religion decide who he's allowed to love. He knows that even if he's expelled as a Jehovah's Witness, that they can never truly take his beliefs away from him. So he takes a chance. He kisses Michael Jackson in the hot tub. Michael answers the kiss, and the pair finally form a proper relationship with one another. The story ends a month later when Michael and Prince perform Bad as a duet on the This Is It tour, like they were supposed to all those years ago. After the routine, the pair kiss publicly for the first time, no longer worried about the repercussions, and that is Purple Thriller. So in short, this story is meant to capture the tragedy of both their lives and how two rivals can become much, much more. I did intensive research on both their lives, and the story is chock full of references. I wanted to write the story in a way that was realistic but still beautiful. It's a story of overcoming the past to forge a better future. How Michael learned to overcome addiction and began to take care of himself better. How Prince was able to overcome his own PTSD and became the father that he always wanted to be. It shows how just because they've had very roller coaster lives, it doesn't mean they can't have a happy ending. And most importantly, despite I myself being a straight man, I recognize the importance of people not letting gender get in the way of how they feel about each other. This story is about overcoming the past and accepting who you truly are deep down, no matter what people might think of you. If it's meant to be, then it's meant to be.